Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be putting some Halleffect joysticks in this PS5 controller for a customer of ours. It does take some a little bit of expertise and some soldering, but disassembly is pretty easy. We're just going to start by taking off this front trim right here. You just pull off the corners. You can use your fingers, or if yours is brand new, you might need to use a little pry tool. But you're just going to get under the corners there and then just pull up on it carefully. Make sure that you don't break the corners there. Next, you're just going to take another pry tool and you're going to get under the R1 and the L1 button. This is going to expose the 4 screws that's needed to open up the controller. And you want to be careful on the L2 and the R2 buttons. They do have springs on them internally, and if you push down on them too hard, they could break and you might have to replace them. So just keep that in mind. You shouldn't have to force the R1 and the L1. They should come up pretty easily. But once you get them off, you're going to have the 4 screws. They're going to be right here. Now for this job, you are going to need either a desoldering pump. You're definitely going to need a soldering iron, a hot air rework station. That is what I'm going to be using today. And some flux and some 63, I believe it's 34, I think it's called, solder. Once you have the 4 screws out, there's 2 little tabs right here in the front, right next to the microphone. You're going to pop those up, and then I like to just grab it the way that I am now and just separate the 2 halves. Up by the R1 and the L1 buttons, there are some tabs that hold the controller together. You want to be careful not to break those, but you're just going to pull apart the 2 halves just like this, and you're going to bend it. You're going to open it towards the R1 and the L1 button. And as long as you do it carefully and just don't do it too fast, they won't break. They should be fine. And there you go. You have your controller opened up. For the battery, it's going to have a little bit of glue under it, so you could just put something under it or just use your fingers. And I like to grab all 3 wires and just give it one quick tug. As long as you're just nice and quick with it, it should just pop right out. And grab all 3 wires so that they don't break. From here, you're going to have the 1 screw right on the battery holder. And we're just going to go ahead and remove that. Sorry, first I'm going to take off the microphone cable. The cable is very short and it does break very easily. So I like to just use a pair of pliers, get a firm grip on it, pull it up, and you don't have to disconnect it. You can leave it on the battery cradle. Once you remove that screw, that just comes right out. Next thing we're going to do is unplug the L2 side and the R2 side. That's also going to control the adaptive triggers, the rumblers, all that stuff. And then right at the top of the board, you're going to have your touchpad cable. You might need to use a pair of pliers if you can get it with your fingers. Kind of messed up my nail right there. And just pull that out. And then you're going to have this other cable here. Actually, this one is for the microphone. The other one, I forgot what the other one was for. So those, you're just going to leave them to the side there. And then on the joysticks, you just push up on the joysticks a little bit. There are 2 tabs right next to the adaptive triggers that hold the motherboard in place. They are not super tight. So if you just push up on the joysticks, they usually just pop right up. If not, get a flat head and you'll see the tab right here. And you just push it to the side as you push the motherboard up. And just be careful of the ribbon cables. If you rip any of them or break any of them, you will be replacing them. There we go. Now for this, we don't want to damage the controller or any components near it. So what I'm going to do is take these off first. That's standard. But we're going to desolder the adaptive triggers off of the motherboard so that we can properly work on it without damaging any of the plastic on the controller itself. I'm going to use a pair of tweezers here and just grab the wire. And you should just be able to touch it. Because the pads are so small, it should just desolder right away. And then you're just going to set them to the side. You want to make sure your soldering iron doesn't hit the wires and melt them. If you're just repairing the controller, I do have a video of that where I just repair it and I just replace the potentiometer. You can do it without doing all the steps that I'm doing now. But for actually replacing the whole stick with the Halleffect or Tmr, it's just better to do this. Once you have all those removed, then you can separate the motherboard from the controller. We're going to set that to the side. We're not going to be working on that anymore unless you're going to be cleaning it, which I will do, but I'll do that off camera. Nobody likes watching paint dry, so I'm not going to put you guys through that. If you do want to see a cleaning video, let me know, and I'll do one. But for right now, we're doing the sticks, so we're going to keep it with that. So here I'm going to add some flux. I'm going to speed up most of these parts, but even with it sped up, it still should show a good amount of what I'm doing and how to do it, and hopefully it'll help you. But yeah, I do have no clean flux. I just, I guess it would be good for removal. I wouldn't use it for installation. Those tend to be very sticky and very, they do more damage than they do good. So I would use it for removal since the solder is there. It would prevent it from going into it. And honestly, you're removing these sticks anyway. So even if the solder, the no flux, no flux, the no clean flux was to get into the joystick, it doesn't matter because you're removing them. I would not use it for installation because of the holes that are going to be open. It would be able to drip into the new Halleffect sticks and get into the sensors, and it could damage them. The no clean flux, when it dries, it gets pretty nasty. So once you have all that on there, we got to add. I forgot to talk about that. We're gonna add leaded solder to the unleaded solder. And what that's going to do is going to make it a little bit easier to remove the unleaded solder that PlayStation uses or Sony uses on these. Once you do that, and then you mix it, it makes it a lot easier to remove it with a desoldering pump. While I was doing that, I had my hot air station getting warmed up and ready, and I did unfortunately have to edit most of it out because, as you can see, I didn't realize that you couldn't even see anything. The hot air gun was right in the middle of the picture. But here are the two sticks after they were removed. I do apologize about that. I honestly thought that it was recording, but I was so caught up in the mix that I didn't realize it was right in front of the camera's view. I'll try to do better on the next one. I'm going to use my soldering wick and desoldering wick and try to get a little bit of what's left over out of the holes and make sure that all the holes are nice and clean so that the new Halleffect sticks can go in. And once all of that is done, we're going to go ahead and clean it. Get all of the flux off of the board. Make sure all the contact points are nice and clean. So that was the hard part. Once you get the sticks out and you don't scratch any traces, cause any damage, stuff like that, it's all pretty much smooth sailing from there. Let's take a look at the board really quick. Just make sure everything is clean, all the flux is off, and just admire your work. I'm a perfectionist, so I tend to spend more time cleaning than I do actually working. So now we're going to fit in the new ones. You want to make sure that you're not forcing it in through the holes, because if for some reason if there's a little bit of solder left over and it's not allowing the pins to go through the holes, there is a possibility that you could rip the traces, and that at that point you're pretty much trashing the motherboard, unless you do micro soldering, which you wouldn't be in that situation anyways. Once those are in and they are flush with the board and they are secured, we're going to go back to the PCB holder and we're going to add some more flux. So this is what I was talking about with using the no clean flux, the liquid form. I like the paste because it stays on the top and it stays in that area, and it won't melt until you actually put the soldering iron to it. So that prevents it from leaking through the holes down into the new sticks. There we go. I'm going to speed it up again. We're just going to add solder to the pins. Got that side done. Now we're going to move over to the next side. And once that's done, start cleaning. You want to make sure to get all that flux off. And there we go. That's the finished product. They are nice and flush with the board. Double check your work. Make sure everything looks good. Examine everything. Make sure that the sticks are nice and clicky. That's very important. I went ahead and cleaned the controller off camera. The video was make sure you put your microphone back or the speaker back in before you forget. Don't forget that. Anyways, I did end up cleaning the controller. I did that off camera. I didn't think anybody would want to watch that right now, but that does add some time to it to remove the middle of it where you would have your, what is that thing called? The conductive film. It does take a little bit more time. It's not super hard, but this video, the recording was actually a little over an hour, and I didn't think anybody would want to sit there and watch that. So I tried to speed up most of it and tried to get everything to fit into the shortest amount of time, but still gave everybody a good perspective of what it takes to actually get this job done. For the customer, I'm also going to be installing new thumbsticks. It would be pretty ridiculous to do all this work and then have them reuse their old ones. So I have new ones. We put new ones on there. Make sure that they are still extra clicky. That's very important. And then you also want to make sure that they are clicky in all directions as well. Up, down, left, right. It's also very important. Just double checking my work before everything starts going back together. And then for here, you want to put all of your all of the four wires off to the side, and then you want to go in one side at a time because again, you don't want to put any pressure or anything up against those ribbon cables, or else you will be replacing them. And then at the bottom where the microphone cable is, you don't want the motherboard to crush it. So gently put it in, and then you're going to slide that cable out from under it. They do break and rip very easily, so it's important to be very careful with those. So now at this point, we're going to go ahead and wire back the adaptive triggers to the motherboard. And if this is not done correctly, your controller may still turn on and stuff like that, but you're going to find that your adaptive triggers and the rumblers do not work. Honestly, the whole job, I hate this part the most because I have very fat fingers, and so I can't just hold the wires with my hand. I have to hold them with tweezers and solder them in place. And then all the wires tend to get in your way while you're doing that. So I always try to just repair the controller without desoldering these. But for this kind of job, it's required. If you keep it connected to the controller, you're going to end up causing more damage. You're going to start whatever works best for you. Honestly, I think starting from the bottom and working your way up, because as you can see here, the wires do tend to get in your way. Starting from the bottom and working up probably would have worked out a little bit better. And then right here, I just end up doing that because the red and the black kept getting in the way. But starting from the top, just for diagram purposes, it's going to be yellow, green, black, and then red. And that's going to be for both sides. I didn't like the way that the red one looked on there, so I went back and just fixed that. So that's one side done. Now we're just going to do the other side. Once those are all soldered in, now we can start reconnecting all the ribbon cables. I find it helps grabbing them with 2 fingers and holding them from the side and pressing them in. Doesn't work with the top one, but on the side ones it does. They're pretty flimsy, so if you just push with 1 finger from the top, they do tend to bend, and then you could end up breaking one of the traces on them. Same thing with these ones, the microphone. They go in pretty easy too, so if you're having trouble getting them in, then they could be crooked or they're off, they're not centered. They usually do go in pretty easily, so they shouldn't have to be forced. Line up the battery cable or the cradle. Get your screw ready, put the screw back in. You don't want to over tighten any of these. All of these will break if you over tighten them. As soon as you feel resistance and they're just slightly snug, you can go ahead and stop at that point. And then I just like to use, probably use the wrong tool for this one because these are very sharp and they could have cut the traces, but it didn't. But I just like to use a pair of pliers just to center it and then use my finger to just press down on it slightly. And then there's like little tabs on the side of it. Just like to use my fingernail and just push that in. This is a good time to clean it if there's some dirt or debris inside of these. Use a little bit of IPA and just clean that out. There we go. Just trying to clean out these little sensors or the microphone and stuff here that I didn't see when I was cleaning the controller. I just kind of noticed it as I was putting it back together. Go ahead and put your battery back in. You want to make sure that it is seated correctly, or else you will have battery charging issues. Once everything is connected at that point, now it's just putting the case back on. I like to start from the top. Well, kind of have to, but yeah. At the L1 and the R1 buttons, and then just make sure that everything goes in nice and easy. Push with your thumbs right up against those tabs there, and it should click into place. And then you can click. You'll hear the sides click into place. But everything should go back together nicely and easily. So if you find that you're having trouble or having to force it, open it back up. Make sure that nothing is getting in the way or getting caught, like wires or something. Something that I forgot to mention, on the battery cradle, there's two little, like, they look like prong looking things or tabs on the ends of it, where the what is that thing called? The adaptive trigger wires. That cradle needs to go over the wires. The wires should not be over the cradle. I forgot to mention that. So as long as everything was okay, you put the 4 screws back in, and then your L1 and your R1 buttons are just gonna press back into place. You'll hear them click as you press them down. This would be a good time to hook up the controller to Gamepad Tester and just make sure that all of your buttons are working properly. And while you're cleaning it, some kind of lint or debris didn't get caught in one of the buttons in between them. So this would be a good time to make sure that everything's working, and then we can go ahead and keep doing the reassembly here. This is not a good time to do the recalibration process, but this is a good time to just test the buttons. So I still saw a little bit of dirt here on one of the pieces of trim, so I'm just cleaning that up. So now with this trim piece, you're gonna, the two top, the pointy little tips at the top, they're gonna slide into the controller. It's gonna kind of look like it's gonna slide under the touchpad. And then once you have those in there, you're just gonna use your thumbs, press on the center and push it in. And then you'll kind of feel everything just kind of fall into place. And then the two ends there are just gonna fall into place. Right where the PS button is, you just press down, you should hear it click into place. And then that's it, you're all done.